The Buckminster Fuller Institute established the Fuller Challenge to honor the legacy of Buckminster Fuller and create a prestigious program that would encourage innovation and recognize integrity. We wanted to draw attention and support to the thinkers and doers applying a comprehensive, whole systems approach to designing solutions to the great challenges we face today. We set our sights to inspire a new generation to take up Fuller's challenge to transform our world through design by showcasing world-class projects and celebrating the people behind them. Buckminster Fuller demonstrated in his own life and work that the natural resources required for all of us to live in relative peace and prosperity exist. One of the things that Bucky did for people was he inspired their individual creative agency and helped them understand that its focus needs to be on the state of the world and its transformation. Bucky's design practice took a comprehensive approach, starting with the whole, anticipated future trends and needs, employed the scientific method, and aligned with nature's operating principles. He saw that this way of thinking and doing is the future of design. He called his practice design science. In 1961, Fuller put forth a challenge to the world's architectural students to engage in a design revolution. He called it the Design Science Decade.
How do we, within that big context, find out how we use our mind, our experience, then to its highest advantage for the others in the shortest possible time? That was a challenge.
In 2007, the Buckminster Fuller Challenge Prize Program reintroduced Bucky's vision. Recognized internationally as socially responsible design's highest award, the annual prize attracted submissions from all parts of the world addressing the critical issues we face today.
That whole idea of 100% success for humanity, no one has that as a mandate. And when you stop and think about it, why should that be such an outrageous goal? That we can do this, that no other body that I know of said, this is achievable, let's go for it.
The Fuller Challenge has revealed that we can and must apply design thinking to every aspect of the global system. With an expanded view of design scope, we were able to recognize design innovations happening in places and projects that were unusual and new.
We've had projects from all over the world. We've had over 120 countries represented at various points, and we get solutions from every discipline imaginable.
Complex problems become opportunities if you apply design thinking, anticipatory design science. There are many, many ways to say that you cast a broad net and pull from all different fields and practices to come up with a great idea.
There's been a shift towards projects that are specifically designed for the lowest income people in countries facing the biggest challenges. Clearly an intentional focus on income inequality and on those who've been left behind by the global economy.
The Bucky Challenge is really important because it connects the built environment to the systems of the earth. And I think it's really important to think about how that might work.
Each year, more than 40 projects were selected to receive support and recognition as semifinalists and finalists. One of these projects was then named the winner and awarded a $100,000 prize.
I always had a fascination with this formation of soils. To me, they were a great teacher. And so, very interested in plants and what fungi, etc., produce the conditions that allow complex ecologies to form in places where it's just rock.
The Challenge of Appalachia sets forth a revolutionary concept for the design of an entirely new economic model for a region that has been despoiled by extractive industries. The project reflects not only a deep understanding of biological systems, but also the best creative intelligence and cultural wisdom spanning the centuries.
I just knew when plants, fungi, bacteria, and algae all come together, there's an alchemy that takes place. And I think that once we could come to grips with soil formation, rapid soil formation, then we could think about an economy, and we could think about putting to work the people of Appalachia. What I appreciated about him most is how he tried to get a whole generation of young people fired up around the idea of doing a lot more with a lot less. You know, the idea of design and the imperative to do it right. In a way, it's a potential emerge into a tipping point if there is groups of young people who, they are getting skills, they are learning, so that it is really a massive effort to have a culture of global stewardship.
I think the challenge came up at the right time for us. We had spent a few years conceptualizing ideas around how to create sustainable mobility for cities and how that will change cities and how cities can change relative to this new system.
The Sustainable Mobility Initiative includes the design of lightweight, highly efficient electric vehicles and encompasses the framework in which the technological innovations are integrated into the social and cultural environment by designing an intuitive and functional system.
The holistic thinking element is important because it's not just transportation. Transportation ties into land use, energy, and actually mobility. So we had to think about that from a whole systems point of view. How do you provide energy to these new networks? And how do you actually think about the complementarity between existing networks and new networks? I think that the BFI has been pretty inspirational when you're thinking about inclusion and you're thinking about harmony and you're thinking about things that are harder to quantify in many ways. Certainly system thinking, you can quantify lots of metrics, but there is a kind of feeling or a kind of intuition that Bucky also brought on top of the kind of scientific and mathematical and sort of systems level thinking that is very poetic, that I think was quite inspirational for us to think about.
The key to reversing desertification is making the rainfall more effective.
Operation Hope demonstrates breakthrough methods for reversing desertifications and its insidious impact on livelihoods, biodiversity, and climate change. A growing body of practitioners around the world are applying these innovative management principles with great success.
So let me take a moment of your time to talk to you about what the award did for us. We were just incredibly amazed. That was the first reaction we had, because livestock are universally condemned for causing desertification and climate change, whereas it is management that is doing it, and we were putting forward a management process. For the first time we had a sum of money which was not earmarked for desperate survival and necessary things, and so we spent it with the agreement of all staff from the bottom up. Most important of all was that the award opened doors for us, boosted our morale, our confidence, and it really began to change everything. And it led to there now being about 30 locally managed, locally led holistic management hubs around the world.
By determining the recovery period for a subsistence fishery that's headed towards collapse and working with communities to stop fishing in certain areas periodically, fish populations are able to rebound, catches increase on a sustainable basis, and communities can see economic benefits from a recovering fishery.
Blue Ventures works with local communities to conserve threatened marine environments. Their integrated conservation programs work with some of the world's poorest coastal communities to develop conservation and alternative income initiatives to protect biodiversity and coastal livelihoods.
In 2011, the Buckminster Fuller Institute recognized our work for its holistic, whole systems approach, one that combines marine science with community-based aquaculture and livelihood development, environmental education, community health and family planning work, and of course, the creation of community-managed marine protected areas that deliver lasting, meaningful benefits for both people and nature. The affirmation of this model through the Buckminster Fuller Challenge has helped build our own organisational confidence, our strength, and our ability to share this model with communities in other tropical coastal states. Today our work is reaching more than 300,000 people, and we're working with partners across 10 countries to scale up this model worldwide, particularly in coastal East Africa and the Coral Triangle region of Southeast Asia.
We actually submitted twice. The first time we submitted was in 2010, and we received honorable mention. We were runner-up. We won the challenge in 2012. I feel like the biggest shift was not only we actually had proven models, we had certified projects, but we also had this international network of people. And that to me took us to the level of scalability and the replication aspect that's required in the standard.
The Living Building Challenge defines the highest possible level of environmental performance, envisioning a built environment that is fully integrated with its ecosystem. It pushes the building industry to reimagine business as usual, and it transforms building occupants from passive consumers into active stewards of increasingly scarce resources.
There's certain areas of impact that you're going to see in any rating system or green building protocol. You're going to see issues around resource use, right? Energy, water, materials, site. And we wanted to also bring in aspects of kind of the more intangible, nuanced pieces too. You know, biophilia and beauty and spirit and social equity. So we use the metaphor of a flower because we say a flower, like a building, is rooted in place, but a flower operates with efficiency. It captures and treats all of its water. It generates all of its energy. It's comprised of integrated systems. At the end of its life, it becomes food for something new, and it's beautiful. It's fairly simple. How do we make human habitat aspire to use nature as a benchmark for success?
The name Buckminster Fuller, it immediately inspires thoughts of innovation and ecological stewardship, and to have that recognition aligned with our name and our mission has really helped give us additional credibility.
The innovative materials science company uses local agricultural waste as feedstock to grow fungal mycelia that can be formed into a host of byproducts, from packaging materials to building insulation and car components.
So for us, we were taking a look at how we can find an alternative material for plastics that is compatible with our planet. So that immediately drew us to nature, because obviously nature is our ecology, is our environment, and of course it's naturally compatible. And from there we sought to identify some new material sources that might not have been discovered commercially or from an industrial perspective to make a meaningful impact in the material science world. We are always surrounded by a number of different traumatic things going on around the world every day, right? And we typically only hear bad news. It's very rare we get to see good news. And through the review process, what's really exciting is that you get to see all these amazing teams really working to make profound impacts for our planet.
I was trained as a landscape architect, but I feel like we are practicing differently. We are not just designing one-off projects that are delimited to a particular site. We are literally trying to work backwards from what we think needs to happen.
The Living Breakwaters project combines coastal resiliency infrastructure with habitat enhancement techniques and community engagement, deploying a layered strategy that links in-water protective forms to onshore interventions.
The Fuller Challenge completely reoriented me relative to the kind of work that we were doing, because the notion of sort of whole systems design is truly embedded in the entire approach. We have growing populations, expanding our physical footprint of transformation on the earth. Humans have incredible needs to be fed and clothed and sheltered. To me, it's those interrelationships between food, energy, and water are going to be critical, and this is the zone where I feel like we need to operate.
Winning the challenge and working on the challenge has just been this incredible network of people, of expertise, of shared interest, and I think has helped us build a much broader global coalition around these projects and around research that can inform our work. The questions that were asked made us really reflect on the work that we had done and think about how we could position future projects and shape future projects to really be more systemic and more scalable.
To accomplish that means that you have to work differently, that you have to think about not just I'm designing this small piece, but I need to consider in a holistic way social systems, natural systems, and how these two aspects interrelate and in fact can potentially be generative of a new path.
The more I learned about Fuller and realized, yeah, what we're doing is taking Mother Nature's technologies, shellfish and seaweeds, and using them to breathe life back in the oceans. We're really bringing the principles of ecological design into our waters as our food system gets pushed out to sea.
GreenWave is a nonprofit organization that has designed the world's first multi-species 3D ocean farms, aiming to restore ocean ecosystems and create jobs in coastal communities by transforming fishers into restorative ocean farmers.
I had to read every question like 5 times because it was just so outside the scope of what I both thought of sort of myself and our work and the farm. You know, I never thought of it in terms of architecture, in terms of design. I was just trying to figure out how to grow food and grow it the right way. What it really brought out was that one of the keys of our design is its replicability. Once I settled on that, now we do it very deliberately. So we're making sure not to over-design. The existing environmental movement is really about saying no to things. So stop the pipelines, stop deforestation. We have to do those things. But the big question is, what are we going to say yes to? What are our alternatives to breathe life back into our oceans, to grow food in cities? What are our solutions to inequality and jobs and democracy? Like the new face of environmentalism is addressing that holistic approach, the approach that Bucky taught us to keep in mind continually. That's what the environmentalist of the future needs to be.
The big ecological story is that temperate rainforests globally are incredibly rare. So they're less than 1/5 of 1% of the planet. And as we kind of looked around and looked at the status of temperate rainforests in the world, what we discovered was that British Columbia had 1/4 of the remaining standing temperate rainforest.
The Rainforest Solutions Project grew out of a decades-long struggle over British Columbia's enormous temperate rainforests. This process culminated in one of the most extraordinary conservation, social justice, and indigenous rights victories in recent memory, a historic 250-year ecosystem management agreement.
We had a global responsibility that was really important to us. And from the perspective ecologically, if those forests went down, what it meant was we were going to be going down to some tiny proportion of temperate rainforests being left in the world. Now, the other really interesting thing about this particular set of global temperate rainforests is that they evolved as a climate refugia during the last ice age. And so what's fascinating is that we got the evolution of very unique species there. So we have things like sea wolves they're genetically distinct from their inland cousins. They spend most of their time eating seafood. And we get things like the spirit bear, which is this genetically distinct white bear that's in the black bear population. And then the fascinating thing that goes along with that, and it's why you can't really separate kind of ecosystems from people, is that First Nations communities, and this is like kind of just been discovered in the last year, they've been there and they've now carbon dated. They've been there for 4 times as long as the Great Pyramids of Giza. So those people have evolved with that landscape. They are an integral part of that landscape, and you can't separate them from it. The ecology of the landscape has actually developed in concert with the people. The first effect really of the challenge was the process of writing the proposal. It was kind of like a really pivotal point for us in terms of our thinking of, we might just about have gotten things right enough here that now it's time to turn our attention. And to turn our attention in a way that I think most of us don't have the opportunity to be reflective about and really harvest what are the things we learned here? Like, what is actually transferable? What's transferable? What might actually be useful? And what's actually just unique to this situation? So I have a fair amount of optimism that comes just from that place of living systems gravitate towards health. They gravitate towards wholeness. They gravitate towards healing if you just give them the chance to do it.
Whatever the water I give you, if there is no peace, whatever the food I give you, if there is no peace, you won't be happy to have that food or the water.
The Sustainable Green Initiative Forum has designed Bungaroo, in Gujarati straw or hollow pipe, an innovative technology that can filter, inject, and store stormwater up to a depth of 300 meters in the subsoil. Bungaroo equips small farmers to be able to face drought, monsoon flooding, and unpredictable precipitation patterns related to climate change, while simultaneously empowering women and the poorest of the poor.
The project has 2 components. One is the technology component, which is related to the agriculture irrigation methods. Our innovation takes care of 3 kinds of problems: salinity, drought, and flood. And second component is the women empowerment. So we are giving the Bungaroo rights and water rights to the women, group of women farmers, and thus acknowledges their recognitions in the agriculture sector. In patriarchal societies, there is a mindset that not to give any assets rights to the women. And like household unpaid activities, more than 80% activities in agriculture sector is done by the women group, but it's not recognized. I was engaged with the women and environment issues while this Bungaroo was innovated by Viplav, and at that time we thought, why don't we give these water rights to the women groups, and so that they don't have the land rights, but indirectly without the water there is no agriculture, so there is no land value, and that approach we have adopted, and it was succeed a lot in terms of the getting the women empowerment.
This is a work which has to be continued. This is a work which has to be taken ahead by the other people. And I am very optimistic, so that's why we have created an open source model for everyone and anyone. We are not keeping anything out of the reach for the people to take it ahead. So I strongly feel the whole process should go ahead, should be self-replicating and automatically reaching all the people across the globe who are not able to have 2 times meal and who is the worst affected by the climate change. And for that, I'm inviting everyone to join hands and support them.
It is uplifting to see so many really inspiring, smart, clever solutions to problems with really passionate people who really care. You have to hope that one day these models of sanity and of better ways of doing things will catch on.
The Buckminster Fuller Challenge says to people out there who've been thinking that there are ways to do this but can't kind of find a way to get support because it sort of flies in the face of conventional wisdom, It makes the assumption that we can make a difference in addressing the most pressing problems facing humanity. That it's a source of hope and inspiration and acknowledgement that these approaches are valid, and we want to encourage comprehensive anticipatory design science thinking.
I think that this idea of being more comprehensive and more holistic in the design approach is grabbing hold in the culture and in the world.
The future is going to be saved through collaboration, through community, through the exchange of ideas where the genius is the group.
I think an evolution for design practice and design education is a great shift from a human-centered approach to humanity-centered approach, which takes in mind the systems of the universe and our impact on them, and our opportunity to learn from them.
To me, it's very clear that what we have here is not only a tremendous portfolio of innovative, creative, visionary projects that demonstrate all the attributes that we've been talking about. It also presents the human capacity and the human potential to be in the world in a fundamentally different way.
Embedded within Fuller's philosophy and within his principles of design is this sense of integrity and of owing something to humanity and of owing something to the betterment of our existence on this planet.